everyone. Welcome to our faith formation class called Holy Moly. And I am Miss Paula, and I didn't introduce our friend from last week. And this is Abraham. Abraham, good for you to join us today. I'm just telling our young friends that we are at a church called First Lutheran in Muskegon, Michigan. And Holy Moly is a part of our faith formation of education classes. So we're glad you're back, Abram. And we have a new story for you today. But before we start the new one, I'm just wondering how many of you went outside to try and count the stars this week, to remind you of the many, many, many children that God promised Abraham and his wife Sarah. God's promises are pretty big, and today we're going to learn a little bit more about those promises. And guess who will join Abraham today? His wife, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
So glad that you could be with us today.
Thank you.
We are glad you're part of the story.
Me too.
So friends, if you will turn to page 34 in your Spark Bible today, you may follow along while Miss Paula and our friends Abraham and Sarah join us. Here we go. Abraham and Sarah's visitors. Wonder who's going to be visiting. When Abram was 99 years old and he and his wife Sarai were still waiting for God's promise of a huge family to come. Abram was getting frustrated. You ever been frustrated when you're waiting and waiting and waiting for something? Oh, I know you know that feeling, Abram. And he even asked God, "What are you waiting for, God? You promised me children, and I'm still waiting." Well, God spoke to Abram, "I will keep my promise, and I will change your names." Instead of Abram and Sarai, you will be called Abraham, and you, Sarai, will be called Sarah. Abraham was afraid of what God said. A new name as a part of his promise? He thought he was too old to become the father of so many people, and his wife was too old to have children. I mean, think about it. If your grandma or grandpa or old aunt and uncles or your great grandpa and grandma or your great 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 grandpa and grandma had a baby, oh my goodness. Oh, that seems so silly. It makes me want to laugh. Oh, gee. But Abram fell on his face. And then he peeked up in the sky with one eye. And as he was looking out, sitting by his tent, he saw 3 strangers walking towards him. Abraham kept squinting into the sun and wondered who would be visiting him on such a hot day. I just want to remind you, friends, that Abraham and Sarah lived in this tent like a desert, way, way out, and it was very, very hot. And he wondered who would be walking in this heat. So when you squint, you're kind of really straining your eyes to see if you can see something. So that's what Abram was doing. "Hi," Abram said when they arrived. "You must be tired from traveling. Would you like to sit down to rest and have some food?" Quickly, Abram asked Sarah to make some bread. He ordered his servant to prepare some meat. Sarah stood hiding in the tent, and she was listening to those visitors. Who were they, she thought. Why had they come to her house? And why were they talking about her? Oh, boy, Sarah, I bet I would wonder that too. She leaned in a little bit closer to hear the strangers. Your wife, Sarah, will have a son, the visitor said to Abraham. And Sarah, she started to laugh. Oh, did she laugh? Her have a child? Oh my gosh, she was too old to have a baby. But the visitors looked up and they said, why? Why's Sarah laughing, Abraham? Doesn't she believe in God's promise that it will happen to her and Abraham? Remember, friends, last week, God promised Abraham that they would have a child. Well, God's promise to Abraham and Sarah did happen. And Sarah had a baby boy and named him Isaac, which means laughter. Abraham and Sarah's family grew and grew and grew and grew. And God blessed each generation with laughter and happiness. And today, friends, perhaps you could make a promise to a family member, a brother or sister, or maybe a neighbor or aunt and uncle, a grandparent. And if you make a promise to your special person, remember to keep that promise. And that will help you remember the promise that God gave to Abraham and Sarah to have this child in their old age. God's promises sometimes seem so outrageous that we sort of laugh at them. But God loves us so much that He delivers on those promises, those great, big promises. And I am so thankful for that. And I'm thankful for you to join us all today. And I hope you have a great week. Thank you, Abraham, and thank you, Sarah, for helping us remember that God's promises are real and true, and they come to us every day. Goodbye, folks.